What is mood? The definition of mood is the feeling a piece of literature arouses in the reader. Does it create a happy feeling, sad, a feeling of peace? It's the overall feeling of the piece or passage. The words and the images work together to create an atmosphere, and that is what we call mood. Okay, this is just a quick review of mood. This should not be the first time you have talked about mood with your teacher this year, but just a reminder that mood is the way that the reader feels. It's the atmosphere that the author creates using words. So we've got recipe for a hippopotamus sandwich. A hippo sandwich is easy to make. All you do is simply take one slice of bread, one slice of cake, some mayonnaise, one onion ring, one hippopotamus, one piece of string, a dash of pepper. That ought to do it. And now comes the problem, biting into it. So we could say that the mood for this poem is silly, and it's very goofy. You've got this silly picture down here of a hippopotamus with a string, and nobody puts string in a sandwich. Nobody puts a live hippopotamus in a sandwich. Nobody puts cake on a sandwich. These are silly things. So all of these little details, the diction and the details work together to create a silly mood. Nobody is taking this poem seriously and thinking, wow, we need to do something to save the hippos from being eaten alive in sandwiches, right? That's not happening. So it's just a silly little mood. Okay, so we're going to talk about another poem. This is actually a song lyric if you're a John Legend fan. Because all of me loves all of you, all your curves and all your edges, all your perfect imperfections. And this is very loving and romantic. The idea that, we love the person even despite their edges and the hard things about them, that even their imperfections are perfect, and that this person who's singing and thinking about this other person just loves them no matter what. And that's a very sweet and romantic kind of idea. So all of these ideas sort of work together to create this loving and romantic mood. Oh, it's so sweet. Okay, so for this one, we have the same words. All of me loves all of you, all your curves and all your edges. But the image of the pizza makes it funny instead of romantic, because we're being silly and using romantic kinds of words to talk about food. And believe me, I know that it's possible to love pizza, but it's not really romantic love. So the addition of this picture makes this mood now silly, where before those same words had created a romantic mood. Okay, folks, the next step as we think about mood is we're going to move into some text in just a short paragraph, but we're going to look at how the author chooses specific words to create an atmosphere or mood. So just like with the hippopotamus sandwich, but this is a little more grown up. So here we go. It was in the clove of seasons. Summer was dead, but autumn had not yet been born, that the ibis lit in the bleeding tree. The flower garden was stained with the rotting brown magnolia petals, and ironweeds grew rank amid the purple phlox. The 5 o'clocks by the chimney still marked time, but the oriole nest in the elm was untenanted and rocked back and forth like an empty cradle. The last graveyard flowers were blooming, and their smell drifted across the cotton field and through every room of our house, speaking softly the names of our dead. It's strange that all this is still so clear to me, now that summer has since fled and time has had its way. A grindstone stands where the bleeding tree stood, just outside the kitchen door, and now, if an oriole sings in the elm, its song seems to die up in the leaves, a silvery dust. Okay, you'll notice that I did make a couple of mistakes as I was reading, and I'm not going to go back and re-record this video, and the reason is it's okay to make a mistake. Sometimes when we're reading out loud, we mess up a word, and it happens to teachers too, so let's not worry about it. I just wanted you to know that even grown-ups make mistakes when they're reading, so when you read out loud and you make a mistake, it's not a big deal. Okay, so we're going to start by looking sentence by sentence at some specific language. So in this first sentence, one of the words that really sticks out to me is dead. Okay, we're talking about the outside and garden and flowers, and it seems like it should be really beautiful. We're kind of at the end of summer, beginning of autumn. It's not like it's winter or anything, but the word dead is there. And then another word that really sticks out to me in this first sentence is the word bleeding. That's a pretty strong word. We've got stained. That's kind of negative. We've got rotting magnolia petals. That's a negative word. Rank can be very negative, or like a rank smelling thing is really disgusting. The oriole nest is untenanted. That means nobody lives in it, so the orioles are gone, and the nest rocks back and forth like an empty cradle. An empty cradle is a sad thing, because if you think about either the sadness of somebody growing up, and you know how your parents are when you get bigger and they get all sad about their babies getting bigger, or an empty cradle because the baby is gone for some reason, and that's a really sad thing too. We're talking about graveyard flowers, and the smell of them speaks the names of the dead, and the grindstone is kind of a negative thing. There we've got that bleeding tree again. The tree is not literally bleeding, that's what they call the tree, but bleeding is a negative kind of thing. And then again, this song is dying too. The song seems to die. So if we look at this paragraph, we see a lot of words, and just the fact that there are so many words that have associations with death and bleeding, and rotting is a kind of has to do with death, and rank and stain, these are for like dirty things, and empty things, and things that are, again, untenanted also means empty, and a graveyard, and dead again, and a grindstone, and bleeding again, and dying again. So all of these words, because there are so many of them, they all work together to create a really sad mood, or a gloomy mood, or an ominous mood. Ominous is like a foreshadowing kind of thing, that's a negative foreshadowing. Like if the sky is all dark and it's about to have a storm, it's ominous. There's an ominous thing. So that's just an example. So this is the first paragraph of a story. So if we're just looking at the first paragraph, if I'm a reader and I'm seeing all of these words, I'm thinking the rest of the story is probably pretty sad. And spoiler alert, it's totally sad. It's a very sad story that you will read probably in high school. But so I just wanted to show you how all these things work together to create that kind of gloomy mood.